This podcast is sponsored by AXA Farm Insurance. AXA offers tailored cover to fit your unique needs, whether it's public liability or protection for your family home, outbuildings or farm vehicles. Based in Athlone, the AXA Farm team of agri-specialists and regional managers work together to ensure you receive the seamless support you need. Switching to AXA is easy thanks to an innovative online service that enables you to quickly and easily find the best cover for your needs. For more information, head to AXA.ie. AXA Insurance Stack is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to the Farming Week, the podcast brought to you by Agriland and AXA Insurance, keeping you up to date with all the latest in Irish agriculture. I'm Charles O'Donnell and I'm joined by O'Brien and Louise Hickey. Well, you don't need us to tell you that the one thing everyone has been talking about this week is the weather. The country has been experiencing a bitterly cold spell in the last 4 or 5 days, which has probably impacted everyone in the country in some way or another. But we know that farmers and people living in rural areas are particularly challenged by this weather. And Aisling, we've been hearing stories this week which really bring that to light.
Yes, Charles, you're so right. It has been a very difficult week for many people across the country as we faced Arctic conditions with heavy snowfall, ice, and temperatures dropping down to minus 7.5 degrees last night in places around the country. Now we're in for another cold night tonight, Thursday, with another status orange weather warning for low temperatures and ice for a number of counties. You can find details of that on our website and app to see if your area is covered. But I think the advice, as it has been all week, will be the same for tomorrow morning and overnight. Take extreme care if you're out on the roads, and even treated roads can pose a danger with black ice. But thankfully, there does seem to be a light at the end of this cold and chilly tunnel, Charles, because Met Éireann has said that temperatures are set to climb and a gradual thaw will set in over the weekend. Now, as you said, many parts of the country, including here in the southwest where I'm based, are still feeling the effects of this cold snap, with heavy snow still in many places, and people have been trapped in their homes. Many have been left without power this week and without water. Schools have been closed. Marts and other events have been cancelled. A lot of things have been falling foul of this weather. Now, there's also been reports of farm sheds collapsing and being damaged under the weight of snow. And in terms of milk collection, Tier said that snow and frost was causing challenges for farmers in some parts of its catchment area. And the processor was using rigid trucks in a small number of badly affected areas, particularly on higher ground. And Dairygold told us that its milk advisory and assembly team is working with individual farms to ensure the safe collection of milk. And it has to be said that the emergency services, local authorities, and many volunteers out there, including the civil defence and many farmers, have really stepped up to the mark this week, helping those in their locality who were in need. And we even heard this week about a pair of Gardaí in County Limerick who came to the aid of a couple living in an upland area in the county. They were unable to leave their home due to the heavy snowfall, and they needed to collect a prescription in a local pharmacy. But the Gardaí came to the rescue. One of the Gardaí actually owned a tractor and he was off duty at the time. And the pair of Gardaí drove the tractor up to this couple's home to deliver the prescription. So fair play to them for doing that. Now, as I mentioned, farmers have been out in force this week, and Chair of the IFA in Kerry, Jason Fleming, was among those who paid tribute to them for helping out.
We're working with the HSE there the last day or so. I got a phone call there from David McGovern. I suppose, trying to get medical supplies into remote areas. And I suppose, look, we were always helping out with a bit of shopping and a bit of animal feed and maybe feeding cattle for elderly farmers and stuff like that. But I suppose this is kind of a new dimension to it. And I suppose how that came about, like as I say, I got a phone call, but I suppose we have the jeeps and the tractors and stuff that can travel the roads, the byway roads that are not gridded, which most of them aren't. So
now, without power and water on many farms this week, it has been difficult for farmers out there, and the freezing conditions have also caused problems with water supplies, leading to concerns for livestock, of course. Now, the IFA and county councils Charles received numerous calls from farmers who were concerned, as some of them didn't have any water supply for several days. And IFA Munster Regional Chair Conor O'Leary told us how helplines had been set up to help those farmers.
So we just urge farmers, saying that if they do, if they're concerned about being able to supply water to stock, that they just look for help. Firstly from a neighbour, and if they can't get a neighbour that can help them out, certainly ring those lines, and we'll get the officers in each of the branches. They'll try and work something where they can get water to those people.
Now, as you said, Charles, we have been reporting on numerous stories of how farmers have been coping with this Arctic blast. And in the area around Carlow Town, George Byrne is a tillage and beef farmer. And he told Richard Halloran, our colleague, how fieldwork had come to a halt on his farm because of the conditions out there. And earlier today, I spoke to Shane McCarthy, who farms in Gowlawn, which is around 3 miles from Kenmare Town here in County Kerry. He's got a mixed flock of hill and lowland sheep. Now, he admitted to me that initially he didn't really appreciate how heavy the snowfall was in his area. He was actually out helping other people on Sunday to get out of their homes and to get cars out of ditches and to remove fallen trees. But it was only when he kind of went home that he realised how heavy the snowfall was. And he was unable to get access to his flock of sheep up on the hills until Wednesday afternoon. He'd made an unsuccessful attempt the previous day. And he said he just couldn't believe the depth of the snow on the hills. And he told us that it was like Mount Everest up there.
One place in it was between my knees and my chest. That's how deep it was. I just walked off one place and that's how deep it was. You couldn't hardly move. There was some places like that, the drifts off the rocks or whatever, but it was scary now, to be fair, so it was.
And how the sheep to survive in those conditions for several days, without provisions and access to food is incredible.
Yeah, see what happens normally is they go for shelter when it starts snowing, or they could go up against the wire.
So as you can hear there, Charles, Shane McCarthy describing the sheer depth of snow on the mountains near Kenmare this week. And he said he's not yet sure if he will have suffered any losses as a result of this cold weather until conditions fully thaw out on the mountain. Now, unfortunately, this week we also saw an appeal from Gardaí to people to take care of their animals during this cold snap after they were forced to seize 2 horses in Kildare. There was concerns raised for the welfare of 2 horses on lands near Naas by locals, and in a post on social media, Gardaí said that the horses had been without shelter, sufficient water and grazing, and that conditions were far too cold for them to be exposed to while outdoors. And they said their inquiries into identifying and locating the owner responsible for these horses was ongoing, and that the horses are now in the care of the local authority. But I suppose as the thaw sets in now, Charles, there could be complications on some farms, particularly around water supply and burst water pipes. We have some advice on our website and our app as well about dealing with frozen water pipes and drinking troughs on your farm as well. So you might want to check that out if you are affected at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, Aisling. I suppose people do have to, pay attention to the advice that's out there in order to make sure that they and their animals, if they're farming, stay safe during the cold spell. Well, apart from the weather, there has been other important news this week in the agri sector, notably the release of the Board BIA Export Performance and Prospects Report for 2024 and 2025. The report shows that in 2024, the value of Irish food, drink and horticultural exports reached €17 billion, a record figure. Aisling, can you take us through some of the headline figures here?
Yeah, absolutely. So Board BIA called 2024 a milestone year for Irish food and drink exporters, coming against a backdrop of challenges and global trade caused by geopolitical instability, fluctuating inflation and ongoing high trading costs. Now, higher pricing was the primary driver of growth last year as cost pressures and inflation continued to affect businesses and consumers. Now, the report shows that the value of Irish dairy exports, which is the largest category of food exports, remained stable in 2024 at €6.3 billion, despite weather conditions throughout the year affecting grass growth. Total meat and livestock exports increased by 6% to €4.3 billion, driven by higher volumes and values across beef, pig meat and livestock. Exports in the prepared consumer foods sector were worth €3.4 billion, which is up 7%, while seafood exports recorded a 9% increase to just under €600 million. Exports of cereals and horticulture increased by 4% to reach €325 million, and the value of drink exports grew by 19%, and we saw whiskey exports actually increasing by 13% to a value of more than €1 billion. Now, exports to the EU increased by 4% last year, and they were worth almost €6 billion, although the EU's share of the Irish food, drink and horticulture exports is now at 35%. That's just down slightly from 2023 when it stood at 36%. And the main destinations in Europe for our produce were France, Germany and Belgium. Now, the UK continues to be the largest single country market for Irish food, drink and horticulture exports, with value up 7% there to just under €6 billion. Now, Bord Bia said that most Irish food and drink exporters remain optimistic about achieving growth this year, and overall 2025 looks to be a year of both challenge and opportunity for the Irish dairy sector. They did point to the uncertainty around the future of the nitrates derogation, which would affect the mapping of potential milk production in Ireland. They also said that tighter supplies of beef in Europe and the UK will underpin a positive market environment for beef exports in 2025. And they said that supplies of sheep for processing are expected to remain subdued across Europe in the short term due to the contraction in the breeding ewe flock out there as well. And while there is a tighter supply dynamic supporting higher deadweight prices, Bord Bia said it does create challenges when securing market returns for Irish lamb. So kind of a tale of two halves there when it comes to sheep meat.
On a related topic, Aisling, the launch of the report yesterday was attended by Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Charlie McConalogue, and he raised the issue of the incoming administration of Donald Trump in the US and the potential impact of the tariffs that Trump has been threatening. What did the minister have to say about this?
Yes, Charles. Well, the countdown is certainly on to the inauguration of Donald Trump to return to the White House. It'll take place in Washington on January 20th. And as you said, the president-elect has frequently indicated his intention to use tariffs on imports to the US on a wide range of products from many markets around the world as part of his economic and geopolitical agenda. And who knows what kind of trade strife that could land the entire world into. And as we previously reported here on the podcast and on Agriland, Ornua has actually moved additional product into the US ahead of any potential tariff hikes. Now, Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Charlie McConalogue, said the possibility of tariffs being placed on agri-food exports to the US with the incoming administration of Donald Trump is a lose-lose scenario.
Yeah, well, listen, any tariffs are very damaging to trade, and we've seen a few years ago there was some tariffs and tariff disputes between the US and the EU, which brought challenges for Irish agri-food. So, listen, it's in everyone's interest, I think, to make sure we have good, open, fair, free trade, and particularly as a small exporting nation where we produce, the vast majority of our food for export, is really important to us here in Ireland. So we'll be working diplomatically, both in terms of our own engagements directly across the world, but also working closely with our EU partners to try and make sure that trade and stable trade relations are maintained. And that's going to be important for Irish agri-food and for prospects for the year ahead too.
Well, that was Minister Charlie McConalogue there speaking about the potential impact of tariffs on Irish agri-food exports to the US. Well, over the course of the next week or so, we will be seeing the first milk prices from dairy processors for 2025 being announced. 2024 finished off strongly in terms of milk price, and I suppose, Aisling, there's a lot of eagerness for that to continue.
Yes, Charles. Well, the ICMSA Dairy Committee Chair Noel Murphy has said that 50 cent a litre should be the minimum base price paid by processors to farmers for milk supplied during the month of December. He's expressed confidence that the prices to be announced in the coming days and weeks will continue to move ahead positively and will continue the trend which began last autumn, as you mentioned. Now, he noted that while volumes would be low for December, it would still be an important month for cash flow purposes, as many farmers out there may not receive another milk payment until mid-March. Now, he did add that these payments would also send a critical signal for the year ahead. And he said that the market has shown itself to be robust in the last month, given that the annual Christmas bulk purchasing would have occurred before that period. And he said that there remains no significant increase in milk supplies across the globe. And with that in mind, we need to protect and encourage those who are supplying milk in Ireland now and into the future. And noting that there should be a 50-cent a litre minimum base price for December, he said there was still time for co-ops and milk purchasers who have not paid an end-of-year bonus to do so now, particularly aiming his comments to those at the bottom of the milk price league. Now, Murphy did note that the average global dairy trade price index, the GDT index, fell by 1.4% after the first auction of 2025, which took place on Tuesday of this week. Of course, the GDT, which is held twice in every month, that auction, it's a trading platform for core dairy products. However, Noel Murphy said that he didn't feel that this would dampen what is still a high market for dairy products. Now, closer to home, the Ornua Purchase Price Index and indicative price return have increased for December. After deducting the estimated processing cost of Ornua member co-ops, the PPI implies an indicative return of 47.6 cent a litre, including VAT for milk at standard constituents. And this is an increase of the 46.7 cent a litre indicative return for the previous month. And just before we leave it, in other Ornua related news, Charles, Ornua Ingredients Europe announced this week its proposal to close its cheese manufacturing and formatting operation in Ledbury in the UK. The proposal to close the facility comes after a comprehensive strategic review of Ornua Ingredients Europe's manufacturing footprint, according to the company. And they said that they would be moving production to other sites in the UK and in Spain as well. So that was the other news from Ornua this week.
Let's switch over to beef for a moment, Aisling. And the ICMSA, which you just mentioned, has also put forward its 2 cents on where it expects the beef trade to be this year.
Yes, Charles, the ICMSA has welcomed the positive start to the new year beef trade, and it said it's absolutely essential that prices remain strong for the coming 12 months. The farm organisation said that this is necessary to close the gap with our UK counterparts and to deliver a realistic margin for farmers. We've seen base prices for steers and heifers having positive upward momentum since Christmas, which is very positive. And the ICMSA's Livestock Committee Chair, Michael O'Connell, said that in previous years, processors have talked down the trade post-Christmas, but they won't even try that this year because supply of slaughter-fit cattle is at an all-time low. And he added that farmers with beef cattle to sell need to know the value of their own stock and explore their options. And he said, we want farmers not to feel pressurised into slaughtering cattle if they're not satisfied with the price. And he also pointed to Mart reopenings. We obviously mentioned they've been impacted in some parts of the country due to the adverse weather. But he said that all the indications are that the Mart trade is expected to be rip-roaring, according to factory agents and Mart staff. So early positivity on the beef front in the early days of 2025. Hopefully it will continue.
Well, just before we move on, and just while we're talking about farm organisations, the race to become the next president of MACRA has kicked off, with John Martin Carroll from Causeway in County Kerry becoming the first to declare his interest in running for the position. And you can read all about John and his background on Agriland right now. The 2-year term of current MACRA president Elaine Houlihan is set to end in March this year. But moving on now, and the Health and Safety Authority has released provisional data on workplace fatalities in 2024. Aisling, we know that farming is statistically probably the most dangerous job out there. So what do these HSA figures say about the agriculture sector specifically?
Yes, Charles. So the report shows that there was a 40% drop in the number of work-related deaths in the agricultural sector last year. And in overall terms, Ireland recorded its lowest ever rate of work-related fatalities last year, according to this provisional data. There were a total of 33 people killed in work-related incidents in 2024, a reduction of almost a quarter on the previous year. Now, the construction sector in particular saw a significant decline from 10 fatalities in 2023 to 5 last year, while the agriculture sector saw a drop from 20 fatalities in 2023 to 12 last year. Now, the HSA noted that the agriculture, forestry and fishing sector accounted for 12 workplace fatalities, all of which were farming incidents, representing over a third of all fatalities from a sector that actually employs just 4% of our workforce. Now, on the back of those figures, a trade union, SIP2, has said that it is willing to help develop a new Safe Pass programme for farmers in a bid to further improve farm safety. John Regan, SIP2 construction sector organiser, told Agriland that the Safe Pass programme has been in place for construction workers for over 20 years now. Now, this programme is a mandatory safety awareness training for construction workers, with the one-day programme allowing them to work on construction sites under licence for 4 years, and then they need to do a renewal course. Now, John Regan told us that under legislation, the cost of this 8-hour course is borne by the employer. And he said that the rollout of the Safe Pass programme has saved lives in the construction sector and that workers see a value in it. And as I said, the trade union is willing to sit down with farm organisations and industry stakeholders to draw up a similar programme for the agriculture sector. And in terms of when it comes to funding that programme, John Regan did point to a central training fund which exists, which is worth, he said, in or around €1.8 billion currently, to which all employers contribute under PRSI or pay-related social insurance. So he reckons that that fund could be used by the government to possibly subsidise or completely cover this Safe Pass course. And he said, look, it is something that the industry should look at. Anything that improves safety on our farms is definitely worth considering. So it'll be interesting to see if farm organisations or the industry do respond to SIP2's offer there.
Yes, Aisling, it'll definitely be interesting to see where that goes over time. But we'll move on now, and the closed period for spreading slurry will end over the course of the next couple of weeks. But these dates are, of course, staggered across 3 regions or zones. Could you bring us up to speed, Aisling, on the rules here as the closed period ends?
Yes, Charles. So there are just days remaining now until the closed period for slurry spreading in Zone A of the country comes to an end. And farmers are being reminded of the rules for slurry spreading this year. And I suppose it should be noted that the end of the closed period for slurry spreading is not essentially a green light for farmers to go out spreading, and to ensure that weather conditions are suitable and ground conditions as well. And we should note too that the use of low emission slurry spreading technology has become compulsory on farms stocked at 100 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare or above from the 1st of January this year. Now, the closed period for spreading soiled water came to an end on December 31st, and the opening date for spreading slurry will depend on the county that your farm is located in. And as I said, and as you said, the country is split into 3 zones, A, B and C. You can look at the map on our website and app to have a look at those. So farmers in Zone A will be permitted to spread organic fertiliser, which is both slurry and farmyard manure, from next Monday, January 13th. Farmers in Zone B will be allowed to spread from Thursday, the 16th of January. And finally, farmers in Zone C will be permitted to spread organic fertiliser from Saturday, February 1st. Now, in terms of chemical fertiliser, farmers in Zone A will be allowed to spread from January 27th. Those in Zone B, it'll be Tuesday, January 30th. And farmers in Zone C will be allowed to spread chemical fertiliser from Thursday, February 15th. And just something kind of adjacent to slurry and nutrient storage, the Department of Agriculture issued an update this week on the opening of Tranche 6 of TAMS 3. And we did have correspondence sent out to agricultural advisors, with the department stating that the opening date for Tranche 6 has been updated now to January 23rd of this year. And DAFM explained that this is to facilitate development work on the 60% grant aid rate for nutrient storage investments. And it had been anticipated that applications would have been accepted by the department from this week, but that has now been put back to January 23rd. And stay tuned to Agriland for any other updates on that date. And the closing date for Tranche 6 will fall on March 7th. And look, just to note that the department has said that while the system is closed to accept application submissions, drafting of proposals, including uploading documents, will be available, with the exception of the new nutrient storage investments as well. And the other aspects of that system are operating as normal as well.
Well, regular listeners of the Farming Week will have noticed we often finish each episode on a more quirky or offbeat story. And this week, we bring the show to a close with a story of a record-breaking goose. Louise, can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yes, Charles. So a farmer in Offaly, John Dolan, had a great surprise on New Year's Day when he realised that his goose called Concepta had hatched for the third time within the last 12 months. Concepta the goose hatched 13 goslings during April 2024, 2 goslings in September and 1 on New Year's Day. In many other areas of poultry, the use of artificial heating and lighting has led to year-round production. However, geese are generally hatched from February to June, so hatching 3 times in 12 months is unheard of, really. The farmer said he had never heard of a story like this and is seeking to have the bird listed in the Guinness Book of World Records. And the story of how the gosling was found, Charles, is also an interesting one, as it really is lucky to be alive. With the cold weather that first week of the year brought, the farmer arrived home to find that the newly born gosling had fallen from bales of straw where it had hatched down amongst the ewes. For this reason, the gosling was called Lucky, after the lucky escape it faced after being rescued and put under a heated lamp. The farmer described Concepta as a very unique goose, which he brought from Mackie Brennan in County Tipperary 3 years ago when she was a few months old. While the bird might be very special indeed, it is not the first time that the family farm has found itself in a potentially record-breaking situation. The Dolan family is already known for their hens, which Dolan is confident to have broken world records in the past. One of the hens, Marmalade, averaged around 5 clutches per year. Marmalade delivered 181 live chicks during her lifetime, which Dolan said was so unusual at the time. The Dolan family also had 3 experiences of ewes giving birth to quintuplets in the past, which have all been recorded. So I'm not sure what is going on in the water down there in County Offaly, Charles, but it seems that the Dolan family farm is full of unique stories.
Thanks, Louise. Well, that brings us to the end of today's show. Before we go, we just want to say best of luck to Noel Considine, who has just taken up the role of Mart Manager at Headford Mart in County Galway. The County Clare man oversaw the first sale at the Mart of the year last Saturday. We also just want to let you know about Agriland's TB Awareness Series in collaboration with the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. The series of articles will run for the next 4 weeks and you can check it out on Agriland.ie and the Agriland app. But we'll leave it there for today. Please don't forget to rate, review and follow The Farming Week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love if you could spare some time to give us 5 stars and share The Farming Week with anyone you think might be interested. From Aisling, Louise and myself, enjoy the weekend and Happy New Year.
This podcast is sponsored by AXA Farm Insurance. AXA offers tailored cover to fit your unique needs, whether it's public liability or protection for your family home, outbuildings or farm vehicles. Based in Athlone, the AXA Farm team of agri-specialists and regional managers work together to ensure you receive the seamless support you need. Switching to AXA is easy thanks to an innovative online service that enables you to quickly and easily find the best cover for your needs. For more information, head to AXA.ie. AXA Insurance Stack is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.